What do I do with my life? How do I raise this child? If I'm not going to go back and live with my parents and let them do everything for me, then how am I going to do it for myself? Well, I grew up in a very small community. I would say pretty tight-knit community. I kind of lived a sheltered life growing up. Anything bad that happened was in the movies or on TV, and it wasn't real. Met someone who asked me to marry him, and I said yes. He became very abusive after we were married. I was washing dishes. He didn't like the way I was rinsing the dishes, and I made some smart alecky remark. The next thing I remember was getting up off the floor, and at that point I was pregnant. So then I was like, what do I do? One day after my son had been born, we were in our apartment. I was in the kitchen and a neighbor of mine came to the front door and knocked on the door. Opened the door, and she invited me to go for a walk with her or something like that. And I said, sure, I'd love to. Give me about 10, 15 minutes, let me finish up what I'm doing. I closed the door, I thought everything was cool. But then he got really mad, like he would do sometimes. Basically what happened was I found myself in the emergency room and I didn't go back. After 30 days in the women's shelter, I was told that there was a spot that had opened up here, that David and Beverly wanted to meet me, and then they would decide if Josh and I could come and stay here. I figured they're just going to say no, because I'm just going to be a burden to them. Something that had the most impact on me personally was probably two things. First, of course, was David and Beverly, and that they cared. They were like surrogate parents for me, and that's never going to end. I think it was just the fact that there was a community here for us, and there were other women with children here, so that helped me feel more comfortable. I decided when I lived here that I wanted to go finish college, because I had started it before I got married. Completed a bachelor's degree, an associate's degree, and eventually a master's degree. I went to work for a company here in Northwest Arkansas, and I worked there for 15 years. I just recently accepted a job back home where I grew up, so I can be close to my mom and my dad. Don't stop believing in yourself. Don't stop believing in God's faithfulness. And don't stop believing in the kindness of people, because there are kind people in the world.
Having worked for Walmart for 28 years, grew up in Illinois, and I had the opportunity 4 years ago to move to Rogers in the Northwest Arkansas area with Walmart, working for the home office. So I got connected with the village by coming out actually with my daughter. She had come out to talk to Beverly about a nursing position at the CAC. After meeting with Beverly and David and getting a look around the facility, hearing about the ministry here at the Restoration Village, decided it was something I wanted to be a part of. Coming out just to help do landscaping and some manual labor, well, ended up being on the board and now the board chair. Really found that there is a lot of need of people that want to come out and assist. So being able to assist with volunteer groups that come out, providing them direction, but also giving them the vision of the village, I think is huge in helping spread the word of the village and then helping the village to maintain their grounds and get some things done. So the first advice I would give to someone that wants to get involved with the village is to show up, to come out to see what the ministries are, to see what the different needs are, and to be able to see how your gifts would align with the needs of the village and just find a place and go. The impact the village has had on me, it's given me a completely different perspective on serving others. You don't have to be part of a huge nationwide organization. There's so much need out there that we just couldn't possibly serve and meet everyone's need. But what the village does is meets individuals and impacts lives one at a time, and I've seen that make a huge difference. Just seeing the genuine care and support that the staff and Beverly and David have for the residents. The community support has been incredible, and I think it's one of the best kept secrets in Rogers, and I think we just need to continue to raise awareness.
I had been in a few shelters. Those experiences weren't good, and my mom no longer wanted to deal with me in her home because I now had 3 children. So my grandfather helped raise me, and my mom lived in his house. But after she got married and left his house, then about around 10, I began being sexually abused, and from that abuse, it led to many other incidents of abuse. I was always in church, but I didn't know God as a loving Father. I just knew like a lot of pain. Whenever I started having relationships, I really didn't know what that was supposed to look like because I didn't have good examples of loving relationships. And I was very naive and I wanted to be loved. So in those relationships, though, like 2 very significant relationships, they were both emotionally, physically abusive and just damaging. Well, I had always been in church, and I was actually went to something called the Pregnancy Center in Garland, Texas, and they were helping me with Pampers and all kinds of things that I needed for my kids. And then they just kept praying, you know, for my family, my mother, and for me and, you know, the kids that I already had. And so they asked me if I wanted to come to Arkansas, and they had a place. And I knew that I was going to be going somewhere like the Salvation Army, and that it was far away. I learned what loving families look like, what moms do for their families and for their kids. That's when I also learned that God loves me, and He wasn't, you know, a big punisher, and He wanted to heal me.
It allowed us to be where we are right now, because if we didn't go there, we may not have been well off, or different circumstances, or have a different influence on my life if we didn't come and go to Restoration Village.
After a few years, I went back to school. I studied social work and criminal justice, and then it took years. It probably took me 8 years to graduate a 2-year college plan at the community college, but eventually it happened. Now I'm in a process of getting my master's. I now know what it's like to give the same kind of love and care that somebody once gave me. I experienced love when I initially walked in the door. I knew that when I was here, that I had hope of being able to do different things with my life, and there was peace here, and I was able to find peace and rest, you know, once I got here too. So every time I would come back, nobody would ever say you're not welcome here anymore because you're done with the program. So as long as the doors were still open to me, I always wanted to come back because this is where I received love. You always welcome me back.
Yeah, my wife Margie and I really first learned about Restoration Village again by, well, we count as a fortunate encounter of meeting David and Beverly Engel, and really got to sense and learn their commitment and heart to serve the needs in this community, especially where it relates to women and children and women and children in crisis. This is the community that we live in, and crisis hits any individual, it hits any family, it hits within any community, and we're part of that. So when that need comes before you, for us, is very quickly very compelling in recognizing that it could happen to us as easy as it could others, and therefore when we've got something to share, support, or give back, then that's an obligation, a responsibility, and really for us has turned into a call to try and be as supportive as we can. Our role, even as men, in a mission that really is maybe thought of really just being about women, children, but again, that's a big need. And where our leadership, our influence, our voice of influence, again, and our caring can add the inspiration and hopefully support and again, increase the awareness of this need in our community. It's just exciting to see men also get involved and come alongside this important work. Getting exposed to this work, it touches you. And it does inspire you when you in fact see the result of what's taking place, again, by the leadership, by the team of individuals that are there doing this very difficult work all the time. It inspired me to, again, do more, find some way to continue its help. And when you see it played out, and a woman with her children to find themselves now again with hope, with promise, certainly with safety and refuge, and the ability to find a way to get back on their feet again, to not just find themselves believed in by others, but to begin to believe in themselves as well. The reward of the success and so forth that any of us individually might have from a job or a career or whatever, or just blessing, big or small blessing. The enjoyment and the greatest enjoyment that we found that ever comes with that reward, or again that blessing, is when you get to give it away. And I can't find a better example in a place where, again, we've even found the enjoyment and again the happiness by sharing, again, back through blessings for us, and knowing that it's impacting lives that need it greatly. And again, it's something that we're very glad that we've been involved with and enjoyed greatly.
Faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love. That's the village.